ago in a galaxy far, far away. Our nerd love was strong. It's gone astray.
Hello and welcome back to the Holochronologist. I'm Alyssa, and we are here finally starting our journey through the Star Wars universe.
First real episode.
So we're going to start ourselves off here with Starlight Part 1, Go Together, a short story by Charles Soule in the Star Wars Insider. And it's their return to publishing original fiction content in that magazine. So it's pretty exciting, and it's the beginning of the High Republic era. This is the first thing that was published.
Yeah, and so we're going to get a lot of these. The next one is going to continue this story based on the little blurb at the end there.
Let's do a bit of a timeline check.
The beginning.
This is the beginning of what we know. It has been said that this High Republic era things are taking place about 200 years before episode 1. So that approximates out to about 232 BBY, or before Battle of Yavin. Is now the time to have our debate about how did they keep track of time then? Maybe in High Republic we'll finally find out how they kept track of time before the Battle of Yavin.
Well, before the Battle of Yavin, it was we did find out that it was Galactic Standard. They had like a Galactic Standard Unification Day or something that they tracked time based on. But we don't know if that happened before or after the events of the High Republic.
The one time I got something on like a year was in an episode of Clone Wars, when it's like a trade dispute, and of course, trade disputes. And
happens all the time.
One of them referenced like an act of whatever year, and I was like, okay, here we go. But even then, it's very hard to find anything on how time was tracked prior to Battle of Yavin, when everything became BBY. So, but anyways, that we're at about 232-ish BBY, give or take. Nothing is exactly set in time as far as anyone can tell.
As far as we know yet.
Yeah, things might make more sense as more things come out and those pieces can be put together. But at the moment, it's all approximations because it is taking place, so far before any other media we really have. There's no touchstones to figure out an exact date with.
This is the start of the Star War.
Yes, this is before the wars. And, that seems like the point of them doing the High Republic is really to see the Republic before it's getting worn down, getting pulled into, the Clone Wars and all of those things. So we're seeing it at its finest.
Peak Jedi.
Yeah, which brings us to our piece of media for today's episode, which is the short story. I found it a great kind of introduction to a little bit of what this High Republic was like. It introduces us to, this station, the Starlight Beacon, which is bringing together a bunch of cultural things from the Outer Rim, and it's new and shiny, and
it's like Star Wars Epcot, right?
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. They've got the food, they've got craftspeople, they've got the biomes.
And the idea is that it's all from Outer Rim stuff, so that the people from the core worlds can now experience the food and culture of these Outer Rim planets that they've never been to.
It seems like this is just where they are, but it's a great way to show us that the Republic is embracing, these Outer Rim places that they've taken and trying to connect the Republic across itself and give exposure to all of that, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, it kind of highlights some of the ideals of the High Republic.
Yeah, definitely. So what is your review having read it? How did you feel about it? Did you like it?
I liked it. Not a ton happened, but that's not like you're not going to get a ton out of 2 pages in a magazine spread. So for what we got, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's only part 1, so it's not even finished, so it is hard to judge. I really liked the characters we were introduced to.
I like that they're not Jedi.
Yeah, that they're project managers, which I love. So it talks about that, how Joss, who and Pikka, so those are the 2 that we meet, and they're a married couple. Joss is more on the mechanic side, so he is the one that knows the wiring and how to do all that.
Kind of the more physical fixing stuff.
Yeah, and then Pikka's the systems engineer type. They have all these skills, and so they were contracted there to finish and optimize the Starlight Beacon. And they were just finishing up their job when we meet them in this story.
Yeah, it was like the day that they were like scheduled to leave. And
Yes.
what I thought was interesting, well, I guess we'll get to the problem that comes up in just a second. But I thought that what was interesting about that was they technically couldn't have like clearance to fix the problem because their contract ended, which
Yeah.
seemed like oddly like super strict. But I guess that's how like computers work. They can just shut off your authority at the exact
Yeah.
deadline.
Where you no longer work for that project. Yeah.
They're packing up to leave.
Yeah. So I think, just before we move on to what happens, just the review, I liked it. Like I said, it was a good introduction to, the Republic in its best times. And as you said, it's really short, but it did give some good little bits to think on, and it still has more to come, so it's hard to really give it a judge. But I liked it. I liked meeting these characters. I liked having these main characters who aren't Jedi and weren't connected to Jedi, although they did meet them, which is also fun.
What I have a theory that they might have some sort of force sensitivity to them.
Yeah.
But aren't Jedi. We can dive into that as it goes on, but that's just like that's the vibe that I got from them, based on like they're like trying to like sort of like send messages. But I mean, like that could also just be that they're a married couple. They kind of like get each other, so you can kind of like body language, emote to each other in ways that other people might not get. But it seemed that there are like some seeds set that they might have some force sensitivity in there, which could be cool.
As far as what goes on in this story, just in case listeners have not read it, we have Joss and Pikka. They're project managers. They're finishing up the construction project of the Starlight Beacon, which, as we said, is bringing all of this stuff from the Outer Rim in. And they find a possible power surge basically going to happen. And even though they're supposed to be leaving, they can't resist the puzzle of figuring out what's wrong, because it could turn into a full-blown power outage for the entire station.
Yeah, and Joss is kind of fine blowing it off at first, but he knows that Pikka is going to get like super into it, because she wanted to make sure that everything was perfect, and also she really likes puzzles and wants to fix the problem.
A woman after my own heart.
You do love your puzzles.
I do love puzzles. So anyways, Joss and Pikka go to try to find the problem, but they run into Shy Tenham, who's in charge of the project as a whole and was put into place by the Chancellor of the Republic. So,
and he's a Bith.
He's a Bith, yeah. So it's an important person there.
It's cool not seeing a Bith play music.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing a Bith in charge also and having power. And with Shy Tenham is a group of Jedi. So we're introduced to a number of Jedi. One of them's a Wookiee.
Yeah, I'm excited about the blonde gold Wookiee Jedi.
Yes, and then the Wookiee may or may not have been able to read Pikka or Joss's thoughts? Don't know, because Pikka and Joss are stuck in this conversation, but they're still concerned over this power problem and they want to try to get away.
And they don't want to bring it up in front of the Jedi.
So they're trying not to mention it, but they're trying to get away. The Wookiee seems pretty
locked into that. He kind of keys in.
And whispers to another one of the Jedi, and then that one suggests we should let them, enjoy their last little bit on the station. We'll move on. And so it allows Joss and Pikka to go and find the problem, and they manage to fix the problem. And then they end up back on the transport in time to leave to go back to Core World.
But it was cool. It was cool that they used each other's strengths to fix the problem.
Yeah, definitely. And so they end up on the Third Horizon, which is supposed to be taking them Core World. But a distress signal comes, and the commander of the Third Horizon, Admiral Admiral Pevel Cronara, gets on the system to say, we are nearby to respond to this distress signal. We are going to, and asking for volunteers with any skills in, piloting, medicine, anything that could be helpful. And Joss and Pikka decide that they're going to join the volunteer group, figuring their mechanics, and they also know some piloting, that they probably have skills that are helpful. So we're seeing them get ready to go help in this.
It's also big that the problem that Cronara says over this intercom is that there was a system-wide mass casualty event, which is pretty huge. That to me sounds like Death Star level, and it says that that's going to be picked up in one of the books, right? The Light of the Jedi.
Correct. This is a prequel to The Light of the Jedi, so we'll hear more about Joss and Pikka's experience in the next part of Starlight, and then we will find some of the Jedi that we meet in this one in the novel.
Do you have any theories as to what might have caused that system-wide mass casualty event?
I'm not one to make predictions that are going to very soon be told that I'm wrong.
That's true. I'm just very curious as to what role the Sith are going to play in the High Republic era. I don't know how the timeline currently overlaps with, because in Phantom Menace, I believe they were saying that, the last time they saw Sith was 1,000 years ago.
Yes.
Is that within the scope of the High Republic? I'm personally not super familiar with the timeline of the High Republic.
The High Republic is 200 years before Phantom Menace.
So theoretically, Sith shouldn't be in this at all, visibly to the Jedi at least.
Yes, if they weren't exaggerating when they said 1,000 years.
Maybe they said 100 years. I can't remember exactly.
We have not gotten there yet. We don't know.
Yeah, I've never seen a Star Wars. That's not true.
All we know about this universe is Joss and Pikka and these Jedis we've seen and what we've heard about them.
And we got they name dropped the Supreme Chancellor.
They did.
Which was, I have it right here. Chancellor of the Republic, Lena So, which we know nothing about. So that's going to be interesting.
Oh, whoopsie Wikipedia.
Whoa.
Let's see. What is our what page do we end up here? Yarum seed. Goody. Do you know what Yarum seed is, Ben?
I do not know what Yarum seed is. What be a Yarum seed?
Yarum seeds are a variety of seed found on the swamp planet of Dagobah. So who do you think ate a lot of Yarum seeds?
Well, it's got to be Yoda, right? We don't know.
Yes.
I can't think of another character that spent significant time on Dagobah.
Correct. So that's mostly where I think Yarum seeds are famous for. It says under food specifications, it's edible by Yoda's species and humans.
Good.
That's all we've got.
I wonder if that's a very exclusive list or if it's just a very incomplete list. I'd imagine it would be very, very odd to have just humans and Yoda's species able to digest any sort of food where it's just that specific.
Interestingly, it is also found in Batu and the Black Spire Outpost.
So can you buy this at the Black Spire Outpost, I wonder?
It is part of the Outpost mix. It's one of the spices in that, which is
Cool.
a snack food that you can buy at the Black Spire Outpost at a food stand.
Awesome. I would very much like to one day be able to try that then.
Now that it's been in our podcast, we gotta.
Yeah, now we have to go to Black Spire Outpost.
Okay, well, that's not what I wanted to click on. What I wanted to get to was, let's see, our important events that we have happen in this. So what do you see as the most important things happening in this short story?
Well, I assume that Joss and Pikka are going to play some larger part in the High Republic story. So the introduction of those characters is obviously huge. Seeing Jedi, I mean, we kind of expected that, so I don't know how huge that is, but
in terms of this being the beginning of what we know of the universe, this is the first time Jedi are even mentioned or seen. If we were historians and this was the first piece of this would be our first mention of what a Jedi is, and we wouldn't necessarily know what it is other than what we are hearing from the description, which I find really interesting.
So from that lens, I guess it paints Jedi the same way that like first-time viewers of A New Hope would see Jedi as like mysterious kind of space. I think it actually calls them space wizards at one point.
Yeah.
But we don't see any lightsabers. We don't see any like typical Jedi stuff. We just see these kind of robed figures who like can maybe read minds. So it's kind of that mysticism aspect, which is neat.
We have learned the concept of a Jedi, and we've learned that it can be any different types of alien species, because in the Jedi we meet, there's a couple different races and species in there. So that's kind of our first, what is a Jedi? If I was reading this and I saw that, I would question, well, what is this then? We get a bit of a description, but we don't know. It's not like it has a definition, which I think is a lot of, that's what happens in history. You find a mention of something, and you have to try to figure out what it is based off of what people have said or told you. Also, importantly from this, then, we learn that something has happened in the Hetzel system. That's where the distress call is coming from. There's been some big mass casualty event.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the biggest point of this whole little short story, is because it sets up what we assume is going to be the major plot of Light of the Jedi.
I think those are pretty much the most important things, as well as getting an introduction to, what the High Republic era of this is going to be kind of like, what's going on, get a context maybe for what things are like.
Yeah.
And I think, reading this as a historical document, if you will, it's giving us the idea of there is these high-tech things, you're bringing cultures together, which is a sign of a fairly advanced civilization. And far-reaching civilization. If you're having to bring bits of culture from other places to somewhere so that people can experience them, that civilization has really spread out and has connected with lots of further out areas.
They're like Rome. They've got space roads.
Yeah, and so we're first seeing, what capabilities are there, especially since this is a brand new build. So it's going to be as high tech, I think, as it can get.
Yeah, because I mean, the Republic, if they're showing off all these other cultures, they probably also want to show off how great they are for bringing them all together in this massive tech hub.
So it shows us that the Republic is high tech. It's
flourishing. It's
diverse in the worlds that is part of the Republic, but there is still trouble that does occur, as we will see next time in this short story, what's going to happen, and then as well as in the novel, and see what the Jedi are up to, and maybe learn a bit more about what a Jedi is.
And speaking of that novel, that's going to be our next episode, yes?
I believe so, yes.
Awesome.
Light of the Jedi, which is the novel that this is a prequel for.
An interesting note about Light of the Jedi is it was also written by Charles Soule, which an interesting note that might bring up interesting points of conversation is Alyssa's going to be reading these books, and I'm going to be listening to the audio versions because I can do that at work.
All right, so I think we are all set for this episode. Look forward to having you listen again as we keep moving through our universe. Big thank you to the Thundering Asteroids.
Yeah, you rock.
For the use of the song Frack Off as our intro and outro. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HolocronCast. That's at HolocronCast, HOLOCHRON cast on Twitter and Instagram.
And on Facebook and YouTube, you can find us at Holochronologist.
If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, we're happy to hear them all. You can email us at holochronologist@gmail.com.
Yeah, drop us a line just to say hey.
We'll continue our journey next time on The Holochronologist. Bye.
Bye.